Let's go to Delta State, where we do have Mike Ejiofor. He is, a former director of the Department of State Services. He is joining us now to actually have a conversation about this threat, not just on the nation's capital, Abuja. Mike Ejiofor, thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight. And of course, a big compliment, of the season to you. And let's have this conversation, especially the fact that this threat about an attack, an imminent attack on the nation's capital, Abuja, is coming from the Nigerian Immigration Services. Let's talk about, what would actually constitute this advice? And do you think they should actually have let the Nigerian public know about the imminent threat? Or do you think it went through the direct channels, or maybe the DSS, the Nigerian police, and other security agents?
Well, unfortunately, you see, the situation we have in the country is that people issue statements and from inappropriate authority. And what it means is that you see a situation where people raise unnecessary concern. While I agree that the security situation, whatever information we have in terms of security should not be played down, raising such an alarm is a cause for serious concerns, because it's 2 weeks ago, I recall the State Security Service alerted Nigerians, of imminent attack, especially on politicians and legislators, and the need for people to take precautionary measures and be security conscious. But this particular incident, this particular leak, if you call it, it's a proper mishandling and inappropriate handling of documents. It was supposed to be an administrative directive, from the acting controller general of immigration. But how it got leaked, you see, is a cause of worry, not to only the security agencies but to Nigerians, because first of all, in intelligence parlance or operations, that information, if it had come from the SSS, we know how to manage it by possibly going to alerting the various security agencies through collaboration. But coming from the immigration that is in charge of border control, like I said when we started, it calls for concern, but it should not be swept under the carpet. I think on this unnecessary issuance of statements from various, especially I've said it times without number, that you see politicians who are not involved in operations and maintenance of security will continue to issue statements, thereby compounding the security situation in the country and making it unmanageable. So I think we should be very careful when issuing such statements in order not to cause panic to members of the public.
Well, it's very obvious with your summation there that there is no synergy between the security agencies at all. And we know that the Office of the National Security, or the National Security Advisor, is supposed to be the lead or the head of all the agencies to have released such a statement. But be that as it may, if the SSS or even NIA or the various intelligence agencies, why do they keep warning the public when they know the identities of those who pose the threats to the internal security of this country, particularly the recent one, to the Federal Capital Territory? In other climes, the MI5, MI6 would take them out. Why is our own security agencies not taking them out when they know them?
You know what, Mike Ejiofor, we're actually going to come back with you. Just hold your thoughts, because those answers to Christian's questions would have to get after we return from this quick break. And of course, you're watching Arise News. Mike Ejiofor, a retired director at the Department of State Services, actually is with us. And of course, we're having a conversation about the threats to Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We head for this quick break. When we return, there's plenty more.
You're welcome back, and you're still watching Newsnight. We're live from Nigeria's capital in Abuja. I am Christian Ogodo.
And I am Makaudi. And of course, Mike Ejiofor is still with us, and he's live from Delta State. Of course, it's the Yuletide season, and Mike is having a great time with his family members. But he's talking to us tonight about, you know what, the threat to Nigeria's capital, Abuja. And Christian had asked a question earlier, and of course, Mike is ready with his response. Mike, if you can hear us, let's get your response to the questions as you know posed to you by Christian.
Yeah, I would say that contrary to position of Christian, that there's no synergy. I think there's improved synergy between the security agencies, and that's why we are actually recording some of the successes we are recording for now. But what I said, like we said earlier, is that this is mishandling of critical information. In threat analysis, you analyze the threats, see how it's handled, and then neutralize it. It's not every effort that is made by the security agencies, especially the intelligence agencies, that are made known to the public. So with what has happened now, it has virtually compromised the process. Names have been mentioned, vehicles numbers have been put out. So the terrorists are also watching television, going through the social media and seeing what is happening. So you have virtually compromised the process. So I think we should be very careful in handling some of this sensitive information. Like I said, nobody should take any blame. But the most important thing is that we should be on top of our game, work on the very intelligence that has been provided. Like I said, that information that was leaked was meant, it's an administrative directive to the various posts. But the problem is, where did it emanate from? How did it get to members of the public? And I think the federal government or the Minister of Interior Affairs, who has given our assurance with the Inspector General of Police, should investigate this so that it doesn't happen again. Because if it does happen, you see, we'll continue to have challenges. Don't also forget that the terrorists have agents, they have moles within the security agencies, and they extract information from them. With all this now, it becomes a problem for us. But I can assure you, the most important thing that this information has been given out, Nigerians should be very conscious, especially residents of Abuja, the federal capital territory, should be very conscious of the environment. Report, see something like we say, and say something. It's very, very critical.
Critical indeed. Thank you once again. But there is still a missing link to my question. When the DSS or the security agencies issue statements, they'll say they have uncovered threats. If you've uncovered it, why don't you deal with it? Why do you keep putting fears in the minds of the public? The administrative note that you said leaked stated very clearly, describing the two principal terrorists here coming from Algeria to come and destabilize the federal capital territory. Can't our security agencies take them out just like MI5, MI6 would do?
Well, you don't know how many people have been taken out without being announced. That is the process. It's only when it is necessary for members of the public to know that the security agencies come to inform the members of the public. The reason is that the state security, for instance, does not come on air every time to tell you what, except it's absolutely necessary to alert members of the public. And that is why, on my own part, I decided to take this on by myself, to at least begin to educate members of the public on their responsibilities. It's important that members of the public also know their responsibilities to the state and inform them of what they should do in such circumstances. We shouldn't just fold our hands and feel that government should do everything in terms of security. It's a collective as far as I'm concerned, and everybody should, all hands must be on deck. whether with the security agencies, the law enforcement, and the citizens of Nigeria. It's very, very important that we all be on top of our situation to maintain security, because without security, there won't be any meaningful development. We agree that we are passing through perilous times, and besides, this is youth time, where it's expected that crime will go up. It's a trend, and there's nothing unusual about this is coming up. So, answering your question specifically, many people, many suspects have been taken out without members of the public knowing.
Right. Well, Mike, but at the end of the day, let's look at the fact that, just yesterday, for instance, there was an attack on Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. This was just hours before President Muhammadu Buhari was supposed to visit the capital. Let's talk about how disturbed should we really be about the fact that, rockets were launched just 15 kilometers away from the capital, Maiduguri. That's one question. And also tie that to the fact that the government of the day have told us how they've actually decimated and destroyed, the Boko Haram and all, the criminality elements in Nigeria. But yet we keep seeing all of this threat. How does all of this, attacks and even these warnings actually create a conflict in the minds of the ordinary Nigerian who's just looking to spend time with their friends and loved ones this Yuletide season?
Well, the launch in Borno, actually, like the Minister of Interior said, calls for real concern, and not just calling for concern. Don't also forget that propaganda and surprises are the tools which the oxygen in which the terrorists, operate. They want to create scenes where it's they seem to be having the upper hand, even though they are not having the upper hand. Don't also forget that many countries, Pakistan, Ireland, and others, have fought their terrorism over years. That is not to say that we should not overcome our own. But I believe that it's important that we collaborate more with international donors and nations to assist us fight this scourge that is bedeviling us.
Okay, Mike, while agreeing with some of your submissions, because you're the professional here in this on issues of security, with all the weapons, hardware, softwares, and the rest, some Nigerians believe that the game should have really changed dramatically. Yes, we're not seeing myriads of bombs exploding in mosques, in churches, at the motor parks, or in government agencies now and again. But what more significantly can our security services do to really pin down or eliminate, if not totally, these criminal elements who, like we heard, have formed an emirate around Lake Chad, and they have, like a governor around there?
Yeah, you are right. Personally, I am worried, and I've thought of several things on how we should approach this. I think the best approach should be technology. I'll give you an example. When people are kidnapped, especially in the Northwest, and they begin to tell you, listen, if you go after these people who have collateral damage. And the question is, where were our security agencies before these people took off? If we had effective drones, I'm not saying I don't have the strength of the arsenal of all our security agencies, but I believe that, first of all, if we are properly equipped in terms of drones, before these people take off, they move in hundreds, 200 motorbikes, and they are moving without being detected. And the next thing you see, they attack, they kidnap, and you say you cannot go after them because they are to avoid their collateral damage. So I believe that we should change our strategies, deploy more of drones. You see, when you talk of buying Tucanos, and I ask, What, since we acquired all these Tucanos, what have they done? The Air Force will come with an area view that we have destroyed this place, we have destroyed, these people have been killed. And yet, these people are still potent and attacking our people. So it's important that we change strategies, employ more of drone, and you cannot deploy technology without human element. People in those affected areas or impacted areas should also cooperate with security agencies, but you don't blame them. Some of them are afraid to volunteer information to security agencies for fear that the information given will be compromised. So we need to give more of reassurance to the people to volunteer information and work with security agencies, especially now that we're in this tide.
Yes, information is really key there to winning the war against terrorism and all forms of criminality. We want to thank you most especially, Mike Ejiofor, former Director, State Security Services, who spoke to us from Ubuluku in Delta State. It's time for a short break. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.